A stranger noticed a little girl playing by herself in the park and considered her vulnerable. He attempted to lure her with ice cream and nearly succeeded, but he made a critical error. He failed to recognize the dog next to her was a retired police canine. The ensuing events stunned everyone at the playground. Before we share today's story, please leave a comment below and let us know where you're watching from. If you enjoy compelling police dog stories such as this one, please subscribe to stay updated. Exciting content is coming soon. The sound of children's laughter drifted across Oak Ridge Community Park on a spring breeze, as families gathered for the first genuinely warm Saturday of the season. 7-year-old Lily Chan ran across the playground, her dark pigtails bouncing with each step, a German shepherd trotting faithfully at her side. "Ranger, catch!" Lily called out, throwing a well-worn tennis ball in the direction of the oak trees that gave the park its name. The dog's powerful muscles coiled and released as he bounded after it, his movements fluid and precise. Unlike the other pets that occasionally visited the park, Ranger didn't just run. He moved with purpose, each stride calculated and efficient. Lily's mother, Rebecca, smiled from her bench, briefly looking up from her book to watch her daughter and dog play their endless game of fetch. What started as a temporary fostering arrangement 18 months ago had swiftly become permanent. Ranger had evolved from a recovering police canine to an integral part of their family. "Mom, did you see how high he jumped?" Lily exclaimed, her face radiant with pride as Ranger returned. The tennis ball was firmly in his mouth, his head held high as if he were displaying a trophy. "I saw, sweetie," Rebecca responded, shielding her eyes from the sun. "He's showing off for you today." Rebecca omitted the fact that she'd observed a change in Ranger's behavior over the last few minutes. His ears had risen, and his posture had subtly transitioned from relaxed to alert. He had twice halted their game to survey the edges of the playground, his dark eyes concentrating especially on the group of trees close to the park entrance. Ranger released the ball near Lily's feet, but didn't retreat to resume their game. Rather than moving, he stayed standing, his focus directed towards something or someone past the playground. A man had been observing from the shadow of a large oak for almost 15 minutes, sometimes looking at his phone but consistently returning his look to the children. When Lily reached down to get the ball, Ranger shifted, placing himself between her and the figure in the distance. The slight change escaped the notice of both mother and daughter, but it was intentional, a defensive posture developed from years of training and intuition. Ranger's ears moved forward, registering sounds imperceptible to human hearing, his nose analyzing the air with shallow, measured inhalations. The stranger shifted his baseball cap and advanced a step. Ranger's muscles tightened under his heavy coat, a soft growl building in his chest that Lily couldn't detect. The day began like any other spring Saturday, but a shift was noticeable in the air. Ranger felt it, and he was determined to protect Lily. Before we proceed, please share in the comments where you are watching from. Subscribe to the channel because tomorrow at the same time, we will present another unforgettable story of heroism and sacrifice from the world's most extraordinary canines. 19 months prior, Officer Jason Rivera had been seated beside a hospital bed at Metro Veterinary Emergency Center, his calloused hand resting softly on his partner's sedated body. The German Shepherd's powerful build appeared somewhat diminished under the medical coverings, and foreline extending into his front leg, new stitches indicating where surgeons had dedicated hours mending injuries from 2 bullets. "He protected everyone in that room," Rivera told the veterinarian, his voice strained with feeling. The suspect was apprehended despite officers being struck twice. The drug bust rapidly devolved within seconds. What should have been a standard warrant execution became a firefight when the suspects detected they were trapped. Rivera's team was initially held down until Ranger, disregarding his own injuries, moved towards the primary shooter, creating an opportunity for the officers. Ranger would recover, according to the doctor's assessment, but his career as an active police canine had concluded. The injury to his left hip would result in a slight limp, barely noticeable to those who didn't know him well, but sufficient to conclude a notable 5-year career. Upon learning of Ranger's circumstances, Rebecca Chen, a social worker who sometimes worked with the police department, volunteered to provide him with temporary foster care. They cautioned her that the German Shepherd was intense, displaying a high drive and not typically suited as a family pet. However, Rebecca, a single mother raising a daughter in a neighborhood experiencing rising property crime, believed a retired police dog could be a beneficial addition. The initial weeks proved difficult. Ranger patrolled the house like a guard, scrutinizing windows and doors, and struggled to adapt to a life outside of police work. He slept minimally, remaining constantly vigilant, as if anticipating his next task. A thunderstorm arrived, marking a significant moment. 6-year-old Lily, who was afraid of storms, had retreated to her closet, crying as thunder rattled their small house. Rebecca discovered Ranger already present, curled around her daughter, his body shielding Lily from the door, his eyes watching over her with a calm and reassuring gaze. An enduring connection was forged that night. Having been trained to protect the public, Ranger discovered a new purpose with a small girl who called him her furry guardian. Though retired, Ranger never completely ceased being a police dog. He continued to perform perimeter checks of their home nightly, still responded to the subtle commands Rivera had taught him, still watched for threats that others might miss. Back at the playground, Rebecca's phone buzzed with an urgent call from work. She responded, her gaze shifting to watch Lily and Ranger play near the slide. "I know it's Saturday," she said, lowering her voice and stepping a few feet away, ensuring Lily remained visible. A man had approached, settling onto a bench with a direct line of sight to the playground. He appeared to be in his mid-30s with a nondescript look, wearing jeans, a light jacket despite the warmth, and a blue baseball cap pulled low. There was nothing overtly suspicious about him, aside from the fact that he carried no toys or baby equipment, was not with a child, and yet had spent almost 30 minutes observing the playground with deliberate attention. Ranger observed him. Each time Lily ran to the slide, the man's head would turn to follow her, noting his location. When she moved toward the swings, getting nearer to where the stranger was sitting, Ranger dropped the tennis ball completely and remained within 2 feet of her, his actions relaxed but intentional. "Look, Ranger. See how high I can go." Lily pumped her legs on the swing, reaching for the sky. 3 benches away, the man stood, stretching casually before making his way toward the ice cream cart that had just arrived at the park entrance. 15 minutes later, he returned, now carrying 2 ice cream cones. He surveyed the playground before taking a new position, this one even closer to the swings. "Excuse me," he called to Lily as she dragged her feet in the wood chips to slow her swing. "I mistakenly received an extra strawberry cone. My nephew decided he no longer wanted it. Would you like it? It would be unfortunate to discard such good ice cream." Ranger's ears flattened instantly, his tail changing from a relaxed wag to a stiff posture. He moved directly in front of Lily as she hopped off the swing. "My mom says I'm not supposed to accept things from strangers," Lily replied, looking at the melting cone with evident desire. The man smiled, but the expression didn't fully reach his eyes. "Kind woman. But I'm not really unfamiliar now that we're speaking. Correct? I'm Mike. What's your name?" Ranger shifted slightly. To someone inexperienced, he might have seemed merely focused, but the stiffness in his hindquarters and the minor forward distribution of his weight conveyed a different narrative. He was bracing. "I'm Lily. That's my dog, Ranger," she indicated proudly. "A pleasant dog," the man, Mike, remarked, although his voice implied otherwise. "Why don't you come over here for the ice cream? You are welcome to bring your dog." Rebecca, still engaged in a phone call, proceeded towards a crying toddler who had tripped close by. She briefly turned away as she assisted the child in locating his mother while simultaneously managing her phone conversation. "Ranger goes with me wherever I go," Lily stated, taking a step back. The dog, now seemingly hesitant, mirrored her movement precisely, staying positioned between her and the unfamiliar person. Mike's face showed a slight, almost unnoticed change. "Because I'm allergic to dogs. Could you please just come over quickly? It won't take long." Ranger then made a sound, not a growl, but a low rumble of warning that Lily had never heard before. She took another step back, her hand instinctively finding the dog's fur. "I think my mom is calling me," she said, though Rebecca was still occupied with her phone call. A commotion erupted near the playground entrance as a mother frantically called for help. Her son had seemingly climbed too high on the jungle gym and was now frozen in fear, unable to move. Rebecca, still on her important call, but always the social worker, hurried over to help, casting a quick glance toward Lily. "Stay right by the swings, sweetie. I'll be right back," she called. The stranger's posture changed instantly. His shoulders straightened, his gaze sharpened, and he moved with new purpose, discarding one ice cream cone in a nearby trash can while maintaining his grip on the other. "Your mom's going to be busy for a while?" he observed, his voice taking on a confidential tone as he approached Lily directly. "I have more than ice cream in my car. I got a new puppy too. Much cuter than this old dog. Do you want to see him?" Ranger's hackles rose visibly now, the fur along his spine standing on end. His mouth remained composed, his discipline preventing such a blatant reaction. Yet his gaze remained fixed on the man's hands, noting each minor shift. "Mom says I have to stay here," Lily responded, now feeling uneasy, her first pleasantness giving way to the wariness her mother had taught her regarding unfamiliar people. "It'll just take a minute," the man asserted, his smile unwavering but his tone becoming stricter. "The puppy might run away if we don't hurry." He advanced another step, and Ranger emitted a clear, commanding bark that caught the notice of several parents in the vicinity. The man paused, looking around to assess if the bark had drawn undue attention. "Your dog appears aggressive," he stated, projecting his voice for anyone who might be observing. "You really ought to keep him leashed." A woman maneuvering a stroller nearby stopped, her gaze shifting between Lily, Ranger, and the stranger with a worried expression. "Are you all right?" Turning to Lily, she spoke instead of the man. "I'm fine," Lily replied, her voice hesitant. This man was talking about his puppy, but Ranger doesn't seem to like him. The stranger immediately adopted a polished, charming tone. "Just making conversation while enjoying the park," he said to the woman. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" The woman paused, seemingly unconvinced, but after a brief moment, she resumed pushing her stroller, albeit at a reduced speed, and occasionally looked back. Once she had created a noticeable space, the man's focus returned to Lily, his voice lowered to an urgent whisper. "Listen, kid, the puppy is truly special. He performs tricks, significantly better tricks than your dog, but he's timid, so we need to leave right now while your mom is occupied." Lily took another step back, bumping into the swing set. "I don't want to see your puppy. I want my mom." The stranger's face hardened, the appearance of friendliness disappearing. "Look, we can do this the easy way." Ranger shifted, a seamless movement that positioned him directly before Lily, his stance broadening into the recognizable posture of a trained police K-9 readying to address a potential danger. The change was striking. The family pet had vanished, superseded by the law enforcement officer he was trained to be. Across the playground, Rebecca was assisting the frightened boy as he descended from the jungle gym. Her back remained turned to what was happening near the swings. Rebecca concluded assisting the distressed boy and quickly returned to Lily, concluding her work call. "Sorry about that, sweetie," she said. "An emergency at work and then that poor little boy." She paused, observing Lily's apprehensive look and Ranger's watchful stance. "Is everything all right?" Before Lily could respond, the stranger reappeared, advancing from a different direction with increased confidence. A dog treat was clearly visible in his hand. "Hey there, Lily," he called, as if they knew each other well. "I discovered something your dog might enjoy." A gesture of goodwill. Rebecca visibly tensed. "Pardon me, are you known to us?" The man offered a friendly smile. "Mike, I was just speaking with your daughter while you were assisting with that matter nearby. She mentioned your dog's name is Ranger, a magnificent animal." Ranger remained alert, not relaxing his watchful stance, even with the treat presented. His training included precautions against contaminated food. He would never accept treats from anyone except his designated handlers. "I don't recall giving you permission to speak with my daughter," Rebecca stated calmly, positioning a protective arm around Lily's shoulders. The man's smile remained unchanged. "Just being friendly, kids enjoy talking about their pets." He took a casual step closer, extending the treat toward Ranger. "Here, boy. No hard feelings, right?" Ranger didn't move, didn't even glance at the offered food. His gaze remained fixed on the man's face with unnerving intensity. He doesn't take food from strangers, Lily explained, pride mixing with relief in her voice. As Rebecca reached into her pocket for the leash, the stranger made his move. With shocking speed, he lunged forward, shoving Rebecca aside while simultaneously grabbing for Lily's arm. "Come on, kid." What happened next unfolded in mere seconds. Ranger exploded into action, a blur of precision and controlled power. He did not attack, at least not yet, but instead employed his body as a battering ram, impacting the man's midsection with sufficient force to loosen his hold on Lily without causing him to fall. The stranger recoiled, his eyes widening in surprise at the strategic response. This was not the behavior of an animal protecting its person. This was a deliberate action. He expressed astonishment, reaching into his jacket pocket. Ranger swiftly shifted to a defensive stance, adopting a posture easily identifiable to law enforcement, an angled approach with his head lowered, readying for a potential confrontation. As the man produced a small canister from his pocket, seemingly pepper spray, Ranger's training took over completely. The German Shepherd advanced with accuracy, securing his jaws around the man's wrist with precise force, sufficient to dislodge the canister without causing injury. The police canine delivered a controlled bite, intended to restrain rather than injure. The individual cried out in pain and shock, attempting to dislodge the dog. "Get him off me! This dog is attacking me!" The disturbance had quickly attracted the attention of those present. Multiple parents retrieved phones, some contacting 911, while others documented the developing situation. A park security guard arrived, radio in hand. "What's going on here?" he asked. "This man tried to grab my daughter," Rebecca called out, drawing Lily to safety behind her. "The dog's crazy," the stranger insisted, still struggling against Ranger's hold. "I was just being friendly." Ranger held firm, seemingly unimpressed by the man's attempts to escape. His training was clear in his stance. He wasn't reacting with uncontrolled aggression, but adhering to procedures learned through thousands of hours of police work. The security guard paused, uncertain about how to manage the situation involving the dog. "Madam, could you please call off your dog?" Rebecca found she didn't know the correct command. Lily, however, recalled something Officer Rivera had taught her. "Ranger, hold," she stated firmly. To everyone's surprise, Ranger immediately shifted from an active bite to maintaining a grip, becoming almost motionless while still effectively restraining the man without causing further injury. The security guard called for police assistance via radio, carefully maintaining space from Ranger, who continued to restrain the struggling stranger. Spectators quickly moved their children, creating a clear area around the unfolding situation. "Police are responding," the guard announced. "Everyone stay still." The stranger, however, had a different course of action. With a swift and urgent maneuver, he sharply hit Ranger across the muzzle with his available hand. The impact loosened the dog's grip for a brief instant, providing the man the opportunity he required. He quickly rose and ran towards the parking lot, abandoning a dropped wallet and keys in his haste. Rebecca held Lily near, uncertain if she should feel relieved or worried that the danger was retreating. Her question was answered instantly by Ranger, who disengaged from the impact and focused his attention on the fleeing suspect. "Should I instruct him to pursue?" Lily observed, noticing her dog's muscles tighten in anticipation. Before Rebecca could respond, Ranger acted decisively. The German Shepherd surged forward, rapidly covering the distance. This was unlike the playful running he exhibited during their games of fetch. It mirrored the intense pursuit of a police K-9 tracking a fleeing suspect. The stranger looked over his shoulder, fear evident on his face as he realized the dog was quickly closing in. He maneuvered between parked cars, attempting to create barriers, but Ranger expertly navigated the parking lot, utilizing precise angles to reduce the gap. A blue sedan's door was suddenly opened as the man reached what appeared to be his vehicle. He made a dash for the driver's seat, but Ranger was quicker. The German Shepherd executed a controlled takedown, knocking the man to the asphalt before he could enter the car. This time, Ranger did not bite. He circled the fallen suspect, emitting vocalizations with the precise rhythm instructed for police K-9s upon successfully cornering a subject. a sound intended to intimidate while officers approached. Rebecca pursued them, pulling Lily along and urgently searching for security or police. Several bystanders followed at a distance, using smartphones to record the intense pursuit. "That dog moved like it was trained for this," one man remarked in amazement. The man attempted to get up, but Ranger's imposing stance held him down. The dog moved in a continuous pattern, denying any opportunity, employing strategies that blocked escape without needing to touch him. Two park security personnel arrived, shortly after the sound of police sirens could be heard. Rebecca felt drained with relief as patrol cars entered the parking lot. As officers neared, Ranger's behavior changed slightly. The dog's barking pattern shifted, appearing as if he recognized the uniforms and was now communicating with them, instead of merely containing the suspect. "Is that a police K-9? One officer began, observing Ranger's tactical movements with clear understanding. "He used to be," Rebecca explained breathlessly. "He's retired." Meanwhile, the officer secured the suspect, who continued to protest his innocence even as they discovered a roll of duct tape, zip ties, and a hunting knife in his jacket pockets. "I'm telling you, I didn't do anything wrong," the man protested as handcuffs snapped shut. "I was just being friendly with the kid. The dog attacked me without provocation." One officer, while checking the man's pockets, exchanged a significant glance with his colleague. "Sure, friendly guys carry restraints and hunting knives to the playground." As they escorted him towards the patrol car, one officer halted, observing Ranger with a closer look. "Hold on. Is that Ranger, Rivera's old partner?" Rebecca responded, visibly surprised. "Yes, we adopted him after his retirement." "Are you familiar with him?" The officer shook his head in amazement. "Familiar with him? This dog is a legend within the department. I was still in the academy when he dismantled the Wilson drug ring, sustained 2 bullets, and still apprehended the suspect." Ranger had returned to Lily's side, his mission complete, transitioning seamlessly back to being a protective family pet. The transformation was remarkable. The intensity that had characterized his work was now replaced by gentle attentiveness. "I should call Rivera," the officer stated, reaching for his radio. "He's going to want to hear about this." 3 police cruisers formed a perimeter around the section of the parking lot where the attempted abduction suspect was seated, handcuffed in the back of a patrol car. Officers questioned witnesses as crime scene technicians documented evidence from the man's vehicle, which they accessed after securing a warrant. Rebecca was seated on a bench close to the playground, an emergency blanket covering her shoulders. Although the weather was temperate, she was in shock as the full meaning of what could have occurred registered with her. Lily sat next to her, one arm around her mother and the other hand nestled in Ranger's fur. The German Shepherd had remained by her side since the officers had processed him as a witness, an uncommon but fitting action given his involvement in the event. A police SUV arrived, and a man dressed casually but displaying a clear presence of law enforcement emerged. He quickly surveyed the area before his gaze settled on Ranger. A broad smile spread across his face. "Rivera's here," one of the uniformed officers stated. Officer Jason Rivera swiftly crossed the parking lot, his attention focused solely on the German Shepherd sitting protectively beside Lily. Upon seeing his former handler, Ranger's ears rose, and his posture adjusted slightly. "There's my partner," Rivera said, his voice filled with emotion as he moved closer. He paused at a polite distance, seeking permission from Rebecca. She nodded, and Rivera knelt, offering his hand, palm up, in a particular gesture. Ranger instantly recognized the signal, pressing his nose to Rivera's palm before allowing the officer to ruffle the fur around his neck in a practiced motion. "Still got it, don't you, boy?" Rivera murmured, examining the dog carefully for any injuries from the confrontation. Finding none, he turned to Lily. "Has he been taking good care of you?" Lily nodded, her eyes wide. "He saved me from the bad man." Rivera's expression grew serious. "That's what he was trained to do. Best partner I ever had." Detective Morales presented an evidence bag. Addressing Officer Rivera, Morales stated, "Since you're familiar with Ranger's training, we'd like your professional assessment." The suspect insists he was simply being friendly, and the dog attacked without provocation. Rivera rose, carefully inspecting the evidence bag's contents. Duct tape, zip ties, and a hunting knife, his expression hardening. Ranger is trained to identify threatening behavior patterns. He does not react to friendly civilians. If he engaged, a threat was present. The detective affirmed. That was my understanding. We checked the suspect's license plate. Thomas Mercer was wanted in 2 states for attempted child abductions. The methods were strikingly similar, approaching children in parks, then offering ice cream or telling stories about puppies. Rebecca held Lily near, feeling a chill as she realized how narrowly they had avoided becoming another statistic. As night fell, the police completed processing the scene. Thomas Mercer was taken to the county lockup, and detectives were already linking him to 3 other attempted abductions across state lines. A search of his vehicle uncovered compelling evidence, including restraints, a weapon, and a small collection of children's items, likely trophies from past victims or potential bait for future ones. Local news crews arrived, prompted by social media videos depicting a hero dog that had prevented a kidnapping. Rebecca had refused interview requests, worried about increasing Lily's stress, but was unable to stop the video from circulating online. Clips of Ranger's professional takedown and the suspect's containment had already become widely shared. Officer Rivera was seated with the Chun family on a bench away from the press, Ranger resting at their feet, seemingly oblivious to his sudden fame. I never realized, Rebecca said softly, observing her daughter tenderly petting the dog's ears. I was aware he received training, but I didn't fully grasp the extent of his capabilities. Rivera nodded in agreement. Many assume police dogs are simply trained to bite when instructed. However, it's considerably more complex, particularly with dogs such as Ranger. What distinguishes him? Lily inquired, looking up with curiosity.
Rivera smiled.
Ranger participated in a specialized program designed to teach canines to identify particular behavioral patterns. He doesn't solely react to commands. He is capable of recognizing potential dangers through observation of body language, tone of voice, and movement patterns. Rebecca remembered how Ranger had placed himself between Lily and the stranger even before any clear threat became apparent. He perceived a problem before the rest of us did. Rivera agreed, stating that during his service, Ranger was able to differentiate between someone feeling anxious due to police visibility and someone posing a real danger. His training likely saved Lily's life today. Detective Morales came forward, holding a tablet. Mrs. Chun, we've obtained Mercer's background information. I felt you should be aware of what Ranger helped avert. The detective displayed a file outlining Mercer's history, revealing a disturbing pattern of approaching children in public areas, sometimes resulting in successful abductions with devastating consequences. The most recent incident occurred just 2 weeks prior in a neighboring county. Morales explained grimly that he has been operating throughout the region for nearly 3 years, skillfully evading tracking by frequently changing jurisdictions. Detective Morales added that the department would like to formally acknowledge Ranger's actions. We typically reserve commendations for active-duty canines, he stated, but this is a special circumstance. Would you be willing to bring him to a small ceremony next week? Rebecca observed Ranger, an animal who had evolved into so much more than a pet, a protector, a guardian, a silent sentinel, who had detected danger when others had not. Naturally, she concurred he warrants recognition. As they commenced preparations to depart the park, Rivera crouched beside Ranger one last time, delicately scratching behind his ears in a manner that induced the dog's eyes to partially close with satisfaction. You never ceased being a police officer, did you, boy? He said. Ranger received a new patrol area. He looked from Rivera to Lily, his posture communicating what words couldn't express, that he had discovered his new purpose, his new person to safeguard. The retired canine officer now had a smaller jurisdiction, but he patrolled it with the same dedication he'd always demonstrated on the streets. Have you ever noticed your dog sensing something long before you did? Animals possess instincts that humans have largely lost through generations of civilization. The capacity to perceive danger, to understand intentions, to interpret the faint cues that predators and threats release before an attack. Ranger's narrative isn't solely about a former police dog recalling his training during a crucial situation. It's about the extraordinary connection between people and dogs, a partnership that extends back millennia to when our ancestors first recognized that wolves could evolve into guardians, friends, and expansions of our own restricted senses. Consider this. Have you ever noticed your pet reacting to something beyond your perception? How often have you disregarded an animal's alert because it contradicted what your human senses indicated? Maybe there's value in trusting these creatures who experience the world differently. We'd be interested in reading your stories in the comments below. Has your dog ever shielded you from danger? Have you ever observed an animal detecting something humans overlooked? Please let us know where you are watching from and tell us about your experience. We review all comments. If Ranger's story resonated with you, please subscribe and enable notifications to ensure you don't miss future stories of canine heroism. Our channel focuses on sharing these amazing stories of the partnership between people and their canine companions. Give this video a thumbs up if you feel dogs like Ranger should be acknowledged for their service, both during and outside of duty. Pass this along to friends and family who could benefit from a reminder that protection often arrives in unexpected ways. Watch our previous videos, now appearing on your screen. These stories feature military canines who saved their platoons, search and rescue dogs who found survivors despite seemingly insurmountable challenges, and therapy dogs who helped heal profound emotional wounds. Keep in mind, behind every exceptional dog is a human who understood their potential. Years of training, trust, and the strong connection between handler and canine are essential for every heroic act. Occasionally, within a typical family pet resides an exceptional heart, ready to demonstrate its courage. Please stay safe, pet your dogs, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time with another brand new video. The tracking dog abruptly halted at the forest's boundary, his fur bristling and a low growl emanating from his chest. "Shadow, what is it?" Sergeant Morgan inquired, securing her hold on the leash. Shortly after, they located the old house situated deep within the woods, a place where no house ought to exist, but what they found inside instilled a chilling dread. What precisely did they unearth in that neglected location? Please subscribe and leave a comment below, letting us know your location. Let's get started. Kate Morgan was loading equipment into her department SUV as dawn approached. She watched with concern as Shadow, her Belgian Malinois partner, paced anxiously beside the vehicle. Usually the dog would wait calmly during preparations, but today his strong body stayed rigid, shifting between gentle movements and focused looks at the nearby forest. At 34, Sergeant Morgan had become Pinewood County's leading search expert. Shadow, possessing his advanced certification and abilities in tracking and cadaver detection, had made them the department's preferred team for missing persons cases. The call had arrived after midnight. Jason Reeves, age 27, was missing after failing to return from his day hike on Blackwater Ridge Trail. The first search team found no sign of him in the darkness. Sheriff Donovan arrived with the rest of the team, his face showing worry. "Morning, Kate. The weather report indicates rain by afternoon. We have roughly 6 hours before conditions worsen." Kate nodded, making sure her equipment was secure. "We'll find him." Donovan observed the dog's agitated state. "What's got Shadow so worked up?" he asked. "I'm not sure," she replied. "He has been like this since they arrived." She scratched behind Shadow's ears. "Focus up, partner." But as the team gathered for briefing, Kate couldn't shake the feeling that Shadow's agitation wasn't merely pre-search excitement. In their 3 years together, she learned to read his signals, and this behavior felt different, almost like a warning. Blackwater Ridge stretched across the northeastern corner of Pinewood County like a jagged spine, dense forests climbing into mist-shrouded peaks. The search team gathered at the trailhead, where Jason Reeves's blue Subaru was parked. Kate swiftly organized the team while unloading Shadow. Deputy Torres and Chun would take the South Fork. Harrison and Lopez were to check the ravine. The sheriff and I would follow Shadow on the main trail. Kate presented Shadow with Jason's navy fleece from a sealed bag. The Malinois inhaled deeply, transitioning to work mode, though Kate observed the remaining tension in his posture. She firmly instructed, securing his tracking lead. After 20 minutes near a small footbridge, Shadow abruptly halted, his body becoming rigid as he analyzed the air instead of the ground. "What's he on to?" Donovan inquired. Rather than proceeding across the bridge, Shadow abruptly turned to the right, drawing Kate towards an embankment. 50 yards away was a forest green backpack, swiftly recognized as Jason's, containing his wallet and phone. The trail continued in that direction. Donovan indicated along the creek bed, where crushed plants indicated recent activity. Shadow hesitated to proceed, stubbornly pulling toward the apparently untouched forest. Shadow, find, Kate repeated, attempting to guide him. The Malinois emitted a whine, pulling with unusual force, a behavior Kate had never observed during a search. Your dog seems disoriented, Deputy Torres commented. The path is clearly alongside the water. Kate observed Shadow's concentrated gaze. I'm going with Shadow. A sense of unease settled over him regarding the creek trail. We should split up, Torres proposed. No, Kate stated decisively. If someone is intentionally leading us astray, separating could create a risk. She addressed Donovan. Sheriff, I request your confidence. 3 years with Shadow indicate we must follow his guidance. Donovan acknowledged. We will follow the dog. Torres, please note this location and communicate with the other teams. We will keep in touch via radio. Shadow took the lead as Kate and Donovan advanced further into the forest, moving away from marked trails and into a wilderness seldom visited by recreational hikers. The ground became more challenging the farther they strayed from known paths. Thick pine and old fir trees formed a natural maze, their large trunks limiting visibility to less than 20 yards. We're traveling northwest now, Donovan observed, consulting his GPS. There are no recorded trails in this area. This was old-growth forest, untouched by logging. After 30 minutes of consistent hiking, Shadow halted at the foot of a sharp ridge, his ears twitching as he analyzed the scents carried on the breeze. Suddenly, he bolted forward with such momentum that Kate briefly stumbled. Shadow, easy, she called, reasserting control of the lead. The dog had stopped at a seemingly neglected path, running across the ridge face. Service road, Donovan stated, bending down to inspect the packed soil hidden by the plants. An old one, not listed on any maps we have now. As they proceeded down the neglected service road, Kate experienced a rising sense of disquiet. The woods appeared to press in on them, the overhead branches becoming denser until only infrequent beams of light reached the ground. This section was harvested in the 1920s, Donovan clarified, ending the quiet. Company archives document a minor worker settlement, consisting of impermanent buildings intended to be vacated upon the end of operations. Shadow guided them around a pronounced curve in the aged road and abruptly halted, his posture tense with focus. Kate tracked his line of sight and felt her breathing shorten. Situated within a compact clearing was a 2-story house, its time-worn, clapboard facade darkened by age and moisture. Rather than the crumbling ruin one could anticipate following a century of abandonment, the structure seemed mostly complete, with some sagging areas, dark and empty windows, but fundamentally stable. That's not a logging camp shack, Kate stated softly. No, Donovan concurred, his hand moving naturally to his sidearm. That's someone's homestead, and it shouldn't be here. The house stood before them, its aged exterior showing the marks of many seasons. As she approached, Kate observed details previously hidden from afar. Intricate Victorian-style trim around the eaves, though much of it was decayed, and vestiges of what had undoubtedly been a graceful wraparound porch, now partially collapsed at one corner. Sheriff's Department, she announced. We are conducting a search for a missing hiker. Anyone inside, please identify yourself. Only silence responded. The forest sounds appeared subdued around the property, fostering an unsettling quiet that prickled the skin on Kate's arms. I'm seeing recent footprints, Donovan observed, indicating clear marks in the yielding ground close to the porch steps. Multiple sets, some arriving, some departing. Kate bent down to study a well-defined print. This matches the tread pattern from Jason's hiking boots, based on the girlfriend's description. He was certainly here. Adhering to the established procedures for entering potentially occupied buildings during search operations, Donovan drew his service weapon, maintaining a safe downward-pointing position. He repeated, Sheriff's Department. We are entering to search the premises. The front door emitted a concerning creak as Donovan pushed it open. The interior was dimly lit, the scant daylight that penetrated through the cloudy, undamaged windows illuminated a foyer characterized by peeling wallpaper and a dust-covered wooden floor. Remarkably, the furniture was still present. A discolored mirror leaned askew on one wall, and a former elegant side table sat beneath it, its surface covered in debris. The air inside was chilly and damp, carrying the stale odor of prolonged desertion combined with something else, something less definable, something more recent. Shadow moved carefully into the foyer, his nose working constantly, head turning to register each room extending from the central space. Deviating from his typical approach, he appeared hesitant to move forward, remaining uncommonly near Kate. Living room clear, Donovan stated, inspecting the initial doorway on their right. The connected dining room and kitchen also displayed indications of emptiness, although nothing presented an immediate cause for worry, simply decades of dust, dislodged plaster, and the minor remnants left by wildlife seeking refuge. Kate noticed someone had been present, observing the kitchen table's relatively clean spots where dust had been recently moved, and noting an empty modern water bottle in one corner. Their attention then shifted to a door located beneath the main staircase, which is when Shadow's demeanor changed significantly. The Malinois halted suddenly, his body becoming rigid as he focused on the closed door. A low growl emanated from his throat. "Basement access," Donovan stated softly. Kate observed a detail overlooked during their first search. Tiny symbols were etched into the door frame, abstract designs that seemed intentional, not mere random damage. Comparable markings were present on the floor at the threshold, subtle lines scratched into the aged wood. "These are new," she stated, bending down to inspect them, "and they're all around the door, almost as if, like a boundary or a warning," Donovan concluded. Shadow's growl intensified, his gaze firmly fixed on the basement door. Throughout 3 years of searches, building clearances, and tracking operations, Kate had never witnessed her partner exhibit such intense apprehension. Kate encountered Shadow during a difficult period in her career. Following 8 years in military police, including 2 deployments to Afghanistan, she joined the Pinewood County Sheriff's Department, anticipating a less demanding role. Her initial 2 years of service concluded with a tragic, unsuccessful attempt to locate a 4-year-old who had strayed from a campsite. The child's remains were discovered several days later, just half a mile from an area that had already been searched. This experience significantly damaged her self-assurance. Sheriff Donovan encouraged her to focus on growth instead of withdrawing, and he offered her a K-9 unit application. During training, she encountered a lean Belgian Malinois. The dog's evaluation noted high intelligence but difficulty in management, along with exceptional search aptitude and inconsistent responses to commands. The trainer stated that Shadow's intensity made him unsuitable for most handlers. Rescued from abuse at 10 months of age, the previous owner had employed harsh training techniques, essentially torture. Their partnership started with challenges. A significant turning point occurred during a night exercise when Kate fell and sustained a head injury. Instead of returning to base as instructed, Shadow remained with her throughout the night, subsequently leading her along the simplest route back, accommodating her uneven steps. Now, gazing at the basement door with its unusual markings, Kate remembered Fletcher's advice about heeding a dog's instincts even when the reason wasn't clear. Shadow wasn't simply providing an alert, he was conveying a particular message regarding what lay beyond that entrance. "I'm going to trust my partner," she told Donovan, placing her hand reassuringly on Shadow's back. "If he thinks there's something important down there, we need to find out what it is." The basement door resisted initially, then yielded with a groan of protesting hinges. Stale air surged upward, carrying the distinct mineral scent of underground spaces mixed with something less identifiable, a sharp, almost metallic undertone that made Kate's nose wrinkle. Donovan observed a temperature drop as noticeably colder air surrounded them. "Feels like 15 degrees cooler down there," he remarked. A narrow, wooden staircase led down into darkness. Kate turned on her tactical flashlight, the beam illuminating a dirt floor roughly 8 feet below. Shadow remained alert, but didn't show any eagerness to descend. This was unusual for a dog typically keen to lead the way during searches. The basement proved more expansive than Kate anticipated, stretching under the complete area of the house. Stone foundation walls upheld the structure above, with hand-hewn wooden pillars offering extra support at consistent intervals. In contrast to the comparatively undisturbed upper floor, the basement displayed indications of more recent use. Someone has been using this space, Kate noted, aiming her light beam toward a contemporary camping lantern positioned on a weathered wooden crate. Close by, a sleeping bag was carefully rolled beside a small backpack. "Search team, this is Donovan," the sheriff spoke into his radio. "We've located possible belongings of the missing hiker in an abandoned structure. Request additional units at our GPS coordinates." Only Static answered him. They systematically documented the scene, photographing the items with their phones. The backpack contained energy bars, a first aid kit, and a well-worn trail map of Blackwater Ridge with handwritten annotations. A notebook close at hand contained puzzling notes. The last one was dated the day Jason vanished. "Returning inside today, assuming the stories about this location are accurate, I should possess evidence that cannot be questioned." Shadow, who had been examining the room's boundaries while staying near Kate, abruptly tensed, his focus fixed on the distant wall. Kate instantly understood his stance, the identical alert posture he adopted when locating concealed objects during evidence searches. Shadow informed Donovan, who had been studying markings on a support pillar. The wall that had attracted Shadow's attention seemed unremarkable initially, consisting of roughly hewn stone blocks. However, as Kate drew nearer, her flashlight illuminated slight variations in the mortar arrangement approximately halfway along its length. Working together, they scrutinized the wall section meticulously, ultimately finding a skillfully hidden device, a jutting stone that, when pushed in, disengaged a latch. Accompanied by a soft scraping noise, a portion of the wall, roughly 3 feet in width, swung inward, exposing a narrow passage on the other side. This passage led to a circular room, approximately 15 feet in diameter, with a floor of fitted stone slabs. The walls displayed faded inscriptions, unknown script, and elaborate geometric designs. A stone table, appearing like an altar and bearing a dark stain, was positioned in the center. 7 candles formed a perfect circle around it, 3 of which had recently been lit, showing soft wax. The items placed on the altar were particularly unsettling: a driver's license, watch, and cell phone Kate recognized from the missing person report. These were Jason's belongings, and she documented them with photographs, careful not to move anything. The question remained, where was he? Shadow's anxiety became apparent as he moved around the room. He moved toward the altar, then retreated, conflicted by his investigative training and an intense feeling of reluctance. Kate's flashlight wavered, then noticeably weakened. Donovan's did the same. A subtle hum resonated from the walls, intensifying until Kate felt it vibrating within her. The temperature dropped sharply, their exhaled breath appearing as frosty vapor. Shadow's actions changed significantly. He settled against Kate's legs, forming a protective posture, his gaze directed at an empty corner, his fur bristling. Rather than his usual forceful barking when facing danger, he remained quietly watchful. "We must leave," Kate stated, relying on Shadow's judgment. Immediately, as they moved back, Kate's weakening light revealed one last detail: a recently inscribed name etched into the altar's edge. Beneath those others faded with time: Jason Reeves. Upon exiting the concealed room, Donovan attempted to use his radio, but it only produced the same peculiar static. Kate examined her phone. There was no signal, and the battery had dropped from 85% to 17% during their short time in the basement. A gentle thud from the level above halted them at the foot of the staircase, followed by the clear sound of footsteps on aging, creaking floorboards. "Someone's up there," Kate murmured, drawing her sidearm. The missing hiker could be this person. The main floor seemed unoccupied as they carefully exited the basement. Daylight had faded considerably. Checking her watch, she realized they had been inside for fewer than 40 minutes, but the light suggested late afternoon, not midday. Shadow suddenly became alert, his focus drawn to a small secretary desk in the corner that they hadn't previously inspected closely. The roll top of the desk had been opened, showing a stack of leather-bound journals almost neatly arranged inside. The topmost volume lay open, its pages filled with handwritten text that seemed surprisingly new compared to the old paper. Kate studied the open page, feeling a sudden chill unrelated to the basement's dampness. The writing detailed names and dates of people who've disappeared in these woods. The journal entries originated in 1893 and were written at inconsistent intervals throughout the years. Certain names were accompanied by supplemental information, including ages, occupations, and details regarding disappearances. Kate identified several entries referencing unsolved missing persons cases she had become familiar with after joining the department. Particularly unsettling was the last entry, concerning Jason Reeves, which bore yesterday's date and a specific time. 3:17 p.m. Shadow abruptly growled, turning to confront the doorway. Moments passed, then a significant crash echoed from the upper floor, indicating furniture was being knocked over or displaced. Sheriff's Department, Donovan announced, approaching the foot of the central staircase. Identify yourself immediately. Only silence responded, accompanied by another crash, this time directly above them. Plaster dust drifted down from the ceiling. The staircase creaked under their cautious ascent, weapons drawn. The upper hallway split into 4 rooms, the doors showing different levels of damage. Shadow guided them toward the closest entrance, his carefulness apparent in each measured step. The bedroom inside looked untouched initially, featuring a 4-poster bed with a decaying mattress, a wardrobe against one wall, and faded curtains still present at the windows. Then Kate observed the wardrobe doors gradually opening, despite the absence of any breeze or disruption that might cause the movement. Deputy Chen's voice abruptly broke through their radios, startling them both. Sheriff, come in. We've been trying to reach you for over an hour. Donovan pressed his transmit button. Chun, we're inside a structure approximately 2 miles northwest of the backpack location. Possible evidence of the missing hiker found. Sir, we can barely read you. Signals breaking up. Do you need assistance? Affirmative. Track our GPS coordinates. Approach with caution. Kate went to the window, hoping to spot the approaching search team from afar. However, she stopped, stunned by the scene before her. The area around the house appeared altered. The forest seemed nearer, thicker, the trees leaning inward, as if the woods had somehow moved closer while they were inside. A floorboard groaned behind them, though neither had shifted. Shadow turned toward the noise, positioning himself between Kate and the vacant corner of the room. The temperature plummeted rapidly, their breath visible in the suddenly frigid air. As if to emphasize her statement, a door slammed somewhere down the hallway. Then another. The sound of footsteps, numbering more than one person could manage, reverberated from several directions at once. We retreated the way we had come, Donovan decided, moving toward the bedroom door, only to discover it was closed, despite neither of them having touched it. Kate grasped the doorknob, finding it intensely cold. The door rotated without obstruction, yet remained unyielding, as if a significant force held it back from the hallway. Donovan proposed examining the window, and immediately moved towards it. The old frame initially resisted his attempt to lift the sash, but then yielded with a scattering of paint chips and debris. A blast of cold rain rushed in, bringing with it the fragrance of damp soil and pine. Shadow's growl intensified, his attention still directed towards the apparently vacant corner of the room. Kate had grown accustomed to relying on her partner's instincts, especially when they sensed threats she couldn't identify. Whatever was in that corner registered as dangerous to the Malinois. Kate secured her sidearm and proceeded cautiously as a forceful impact rattled the bedroom door. The old wood fractured but remained intact. A second impact splintered the frame along one side. The fall to the ground outside was roughly 12 feet, negotiable but potentially hazardous. Kate descended from the sill, using her hands to lower herself and minimize the drop to the muddy earth below. She landed unevenly but sustained no injuries, quickly arranging herself to be in shadow. Donovan raised the Malinois, who appeared remarkably compliant with the handling, reinforcing Kate's sense that the dog detected significant danger within. Shadow permitted himself to be passed through the window, his 65 pounds of muscle momentarily suspended before Donovan released him to Kate below. Another crash originated from inside the bedroom, followed by Donovan's startled shout. Kate looked up to observe the sheriff struggling with the window sash, which had unexpectedly slammed down, nearly trapping his hands. "Something's got it," he called, straining against the seemingly immovable window. Shadow barked sharply, not an alert for danger, but his specific call for Kate's attention. The Malinois was focused on a point at the corner of the house, where weathered clapboards met in a seam that appeared to be separating unnaturally, revealing darkness beyond. "Sheriff, another exit," Kate called up to Donovan. "Meet me at the front of the house." Kate drew her weapon again, using her flashlight to illuminate the darkened passage beyond the open doors. Rough-hewn stone steps descended into darkness. The air rising from below held the same metallic odor they'd noticed in the basement. Shadow seemed to want her to go down, but everything she's felt in the house cautioned against returning. The dog whimpered, scratching at the initial step, his eagerness unmistakable. "Kate," Donovan's voice called from somewhere near the front of the house. "Where are you?" Before she could respond, a loud crash echoed from inside the house, the clear sound of a structural failure. Dust puffed out from an upstairs window as a portion of the roof collapsed. Shadow's fur stood on end, a soft growl vibrating in his chest, aimed not at the cellar entrance behind them, but toward the sound of Donovan's voice. A chilling sense of conviction settled in Kate's stomach. "That's not the sheriff," she whispered, completely believing Shadow's judgment. The dog maintained its position, preventing anyone or anything from approaching from around the corner. Kate retreated towards the cellar entrance, keeping her weapon aimed at the side of the building. Shadow followed her, continuing his protective posture. The constricted tunnel stretched roughly 20 feet before leading into what seemed to be a mechanical room, containing antiquated, rusted machinery indicative of a coal furnace system from the house's initial construction. This area, in contrast to the basement they had explored previously, exhibited no indications of recent activity. A door on the distant wall likely linked to the main basement. Kate bypassed it, opting to follow Shadow toward a section of foundation wall that had partially collapsed. The Malinois readily passed through the opening, appearing outside into thick underbrush that had hidden this gap from view. "Sheriff Donovan, come in." Kate tried on her radio, but only received static. She trailed Shadow roughly 50 yards through thick foliage before daring to look back towards the house. Through openings in the trees, she observed its outline. The partially collapsed roof was now releasing smoke despite the heavy rain. Even more unsettling was the movement she noticed at several windows, with shadows moving across them, despite the fact that they had discovered no other people inside. "Kate," the authentic voice of Sheriff Donovan interrupted her focus on the house. He appeared from the trees to her right, soaked and muddied, but seemingly unharmed. "Thank God, I thought you were still inside." Shadow's reaction verified this was truly Donovan. The dog's posture softened, his tail giving a quick wag of recognition. "How did you escape?" Kate inquired, observing a bleeding cut along the sheriff's hairline. "The back staircase gave way while he was on it," he recounted, resulting in him ending up in some kind of root cellar. "He found a storm door leading out, and then—" He paused, seemingly having difficulty expressing his experience. Something was present with him inside, not a person, at least not anymore. Shadow abruptly tensed, his focus returning to the house in the distance. Kate followed his gaze, observing what seemed to be several figures exiting the front door. They were obscured by the rain and fading light, but clearly advancing purposefully toward their position. "We need to go," she stated, her strategic mind rapidly assessing their choices. The primary objective was to extract safely and redirect backup teams away from the house. After 20 minutes of consistent travel, they arrived at the ridge line, offering a view of the valley where the house was situated. From their high vantage point, they observed several flashlight beams in the distance, indicating the search teams were closing in, following their last known coordinates. "We need to stop them before they reach the house," Donovan stated, attempting his radio once more. This time, Deputy Torres responded clearly. "Sheriff, we've been trying to reach you for hours." "Listen carefully," Donovan replied. Do not approach the structure at these coordinates. I repeat, do not approach. We are maneuvering to block your team's advance from the ridge line north of your current location. Within an hour, they had successfully met up with the search teams and created a security zone half a mile from the house. As full darkness enveloped the forest, the decision was reached to pause operations until morning. The missing hiker, Jason Reeves, was still not found. A flickering light appeared through the trees, not a consistent beam from a flashlight, but the shifting appearance of flames. The house, despite the pouring rain, was now completely consumed by fire, the glow still visible from their location. 1 month later, Kate's office wall showcased an expanding array of photographs, maps, and notes linked by red string, representing her personal inquiry. Jason Reeves remained listed as missing with no new information. The formal search continued for 2 weeks, involving numerous agencies, cadaver dogs, and ground-penetrating radar covering 10 square miles. The search yielded no results, no body was discovered, nor any further evidence besides the peculiar house that had burned completely to its foundation before firefighters arrived. Kate attached a newspaper clipping from 1922 to her board, detailing the destruction of Old Blackwater House in a fire that claimed the lives of 7 members of the Thorne family. The article mentioned local beliefs that the property had been plagued by misfortune since it was built. Her phone rang. "Morgan, this is Torres. Regarding the research you asked for, 16 disappearances have been recorded within a 5-mile radius of Blackwater Ridge, a number 3 times higher than what's typically seen in comparable wilderness areas. Any patterns?" Kate inquired. The disappearances tend to occur in clusters of 3 or 4 individuals within a few months, followed by years of no further incidents. Has anyone ever been located? Only one person. A Forest Service worker was discovered wandering along Highway 16 3 months later in 1978. He had no recollection of his whereabouts and was malnourished, but sustained no other injuries. Following the phone call, Kate added the details to her board while Shadow stood beside her, his gaze fixed on the photograph of the house foundation. "What did you perceive there?" she inquired softly. Shadow immediately growled, his focus directed at the window where darkness now filled the view. Kate observed a fleeting movement in the tree line, the shadows seeming distorted. She swiftly lowered the blinds, spotting a manila envelope on the exterior windowsill, a package that couldn't be reached without a ladder from her second-floor office. A single photograph lay within, showing Jason Reeves positioned in front of the undamaged Blackwater house, his expression unreadable, bearing a timestamp 3 days following their investigation. Written on the reverse in elegant handwriting was the phrase, "The house always returns. So do we." Shadow brushed against her legs as a shiver traced its way down her spine. Outside, limbs scraped against the structure, sounding like searching fingers. For the first time in her professional life, Kate wished that certain enigmas would remain beyond resolution. Have you ever observed your pet responding to something imperceptible that prompted a feeling of unease? Animals demonstrate senses extending beyond human capabilities. They perceive frequencies beyond our hearing range, scent traces too subtle for us to notice, and possibly energies that science has yet to explain. What could your dog or cat be perceiving when they abruptly pause, focusing intensely on a vacant area of your home? Do you consider that some locations retain echoes of previous occurrences that certain perceptive animals are able to detect? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments section. We are eager to read your stories. If this puzzling cold case gave you chills, remember to click the subscribe button and enable notifications to stay updated with our regular uploads about remarkable dog stories. Give this video a thumbs up if you want to see more unsolved mysteries, and share it with those who value the unique capabilities of our canine friends. Be sure to view our additional unexplained canine encounters currently displaying. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, with another brand new video that explores the remarkable world of working dogs and the mysteries they help us uncover.